I mentioned that we are moving the break-even curve from 45 to 55% to somewhere between 27.5 to 35%. So why is that important? It's actually risk management. Let me explain. When your break-even is lower, it means that you have a higher chance of success even if there's a recession. Typically in the hotel industry, when there's a recession or when it's an oversupply, hotel occupancy will drop somewhere between 45 to 55% occupancy. So if your break-even is at 45 to 55, you're in big trouble. The best you can do is just break even, which is not good enough. Especially when the owner, or even if the hotel is owned by you, you have loan interest and loan principal to repay. So by bringing down the break-even to 27.5 to 35, what it does is, when there is a bad market due to recession or oversupply of 45 to 55% occupancy in the market, our hotels still make money. And our hotel will still make money to cover the interest payment when the owner borrow up to 70%. So 6.5% say interest rate at 70% is roughly about 4.3 or 4.4% that you need to pay back. That yield we can still maintain at that type of occupancy. Of course, when the market go up, right, or you can reach occupancy, very quickly your return on your investment, your cash flow become huge. And that's when you make a lot of money. Okay, and you must also know that most economy will go into recession every 8 to 12 years. So this is going to repeat. And then the supply demand of a market depends on how many new hotels are coming and how many new visitors are arriving. And supply is very easy to predict. We do a supply demand forecast and we look at our competitive area, see which hotels are being built, and we know roughly when the supply will hit the market, and we add it into our supply. So normally supply is not that difficult to predict. Demand, however, is quite difficult to predict. So the only thing we can do is both supply and the demand side, especially the demand side, all we can do is we do basically a linear regression to say that roughly it should go up at this rate, right? And then we then divide by the new supply, total rooms night available in the year, and we get the forecasted occupancy, right? And that is how we manage our business, because a lot of hotels, in fact, we are the only company in the world who do this supply demand analysis, because this gives us a basis to really look at what's going to happen the next 5 years and whether we can make money or not. So this is our in-house knowledge, which I train all my senior managers, and they are all trained to look at that, right? The other thing that is happening in the world is that issue about diseases. In 2003, we saw SARS. But SARS was relatively easy because it hit the second quarter of 2003. In fact, I know of an international hotel in Beijing. My friend was a GM and they had to close down. He lost his job, he came back here. But for us, in our company, because of the way we manage costs and our break-even is lower, and high variable compensation, when SARS hit, it was Q2. All of my people did not hit their bonuses, their income all dropped. But we did not have to retrench anyone, we didn't have to cut the pay on anyone. So that one full quarter, and Q3 for that year, the business recovered. And Q4, they hit their maximum bonus. So within a 2-quarter turn from a downturn to recovery, morale at the end of the year was already extremely high. Okay, so let me share about that. So as I mentioned, for disease, it looked like for me that every 15 to 20 years, you have to be prepared for a disease. But whether it's severe as SARS or as severe as COVID, we do not know, but we have to be prepared. So in the case of COVID, it is extremely more challenging, because in case of the COVID case, revenue dropped to zero. So when revenue dropped to zero, even you manage the cost, you are in trouble, right? But hopefully, every disease cycle, you won't have it as severe as COVID. When I started my work journey as a trained industrial engineer, I was in the manufacturing industry. And in the manufacturing industry, as an industrial engineer, we were trained to measure everything. But that's our job. And in the factory, we will measure output and time of output in a day or whatever, and we know that is the cost objective we're trying to hit. If the people misbehave, we don't really care as the numbers fit. So when I came to the hotel line, and I said to myself, wow, how do we measure? And that began my journey of learning how to measure and how to measure the effectiveness of our people. All right. So when I start talking to many different people, so the only thing I can come to is that everybody have their idea of what is a good worker and not a good worker. And that's not really good enough because it's not precise enough. And also, performance appraisal doesn't work either because I have learned over the years, even in my manufacturing day, performance appraisal give you a clue of the appraiser. The appraisee, very difficult to find out because in the end, everybody pick 3 or 4 or 5 and then you can't, it's not discriminating. So then I start to think, okay, maybe I attempt to measure behavior, right? And I can't measure every behavior because I'll go crazy. So I start to think in terms of what are the behaviors we must have and what we would love to have, right? So what I can do is this, by thinking through, I really split all the things I need to measure into 4 areas. One is the values and beliefs of the company, right? Because it is like, if you don't, if you're not Christian, you should not go and pray in the church. If you're not Muslim, you should not pray in the mosque. So values and belief are similar. This is the values and belief of our company, and when you come in, you should fit. Right? But the difficulty of checking what is value or belief is another point we were going to cover now. Then the next thing I want to cover is doing the job. What is your job? You're paid for that job, and as long as you do your job, it should be good enough. The next area is improving the job. What did you do to improve the job? And the third component of the measurement is growing for the next job. That means you're preparing yourself to have more responsibility, pay raise, etc. Okay. So I start to structure my thinking that way. So the first thing I came across is, which I've been roughly ever since my started work, is how to determine values and belief. And so we can only try to determine at the time of interview, but then there is no hard and fast rule also. And most of the time, we can only find out in the feedback and observations, or in the heat of the battle. Let's say during the SARS period, you can really see who are your good people, who are your lousy people. Before that, they could be hiding. So the trick becomes, how did you find out as soon as possible, right? So when we look at values and belief, I basically follow the matrix that Jack Welch came up with when he was in GE. We look at values and belief, good value, good, and the values are no good. Performance is high performance and low performance. So when a person has high performance and he has good value system, he's your star, and then you should be looking at him how he should be promoted for the future. The lower left quadrant of the matrix is the low performer and low values and belief. It's actually, I think the name he used is a dog. And that in that category, you should sack them today. The difficulty are for the other 2 quadrants, right? For in the other 2 quadrants, you have a person, he's a very good person, good values and belief, but he's not a good performer, right? So what do? It's a big problem. So basically, I learned that it's best you set a date. You say, okay, this guy, he's a good guy. I give him 9 months or a year or 18 months. And by that time, he must be able to perform. So you set the date. Because if you can make him perform by that day, he has moved to become a star, which is where you want him to be. But if he still cannot perform, basically he dropped down to become a dog. And you should by that day get rid of him. And finally, the other quadrant is good performer, very high performance, but values and beliefs are very bad. He's cheating you, but he can still perform, right? So this guy is the most difficult. So I'm going to share with you a friend of mine talked to me. He said, Dennis, I just retired and I made my right-hand man the managing director of my company, right? And he can perform. He was making good money for me, but he just learned that the guy is cheating him a lot, and what should he do? So this is a clash of values and beliefs. So I told him it's very simple. For Dennis Tan, it's very simple. I don't take people with bad values and beliefs. I would sack him already. But you have a choice. Your choice is, do you follow what I believe and let him go? Or you let him be there. But if you let him be there, be aware that today he may be cheating 20%. But in 4 or 5 years' time, I'm going to tell you he's going to cheat you 80% of your profit. Right? So I suggest you keep a tight hold on him. If you cannot let him go now, is to immediately hire a person that you can train to take over that job and slowly pace him out or get rid of him when you are ready. But you cannot make the new person report to him because he will make sure the guy cannot stay in the company. So we concentrate on measuring, doing the job. So what do we measure? Right. So one of the things that I want, and I've talked to many of my friends, that okay, a person should be friendly. Yeah. But the problem with being friendly is you can pretend to be friendly and not be friendly. Give you an example. There was a fast food chain. They trained all their staff to say, "Hello, sir, welcome," or "Thank you," but the facial expression is negative. So they are only acting and pretending, but from their body language, you can see that they don't mean what they say. So it's not good enough. So after thinking through how to see whether the person is genuinely friendly, I decided very hard to just leave that word alone. So I add the word helpful. So now we look at friendly and helpful. And the helpfulness is like this. We define what should be helpfulness. You must greet. Friendly is greet, and helpful is help when you are able to help. You work as a team. You don't allow politicking. You agree to disagree. So being helpful, very hard to pretend, right? Because you're either a helpful person or you are not helpful. You can pretend for a while, but eventually the whole thing can quickly spot you, right? So after being helpful, friendly and helpful, we move next point to accuracy. Do you want to have accuracy in your work? The answer with everyone is that yes, we want to. But you got to be more precise than that, because you know that even you yourself make mistakes. I make mistakes also. So what percentage accuracy is acceptable? 100% is definitely not possible, right? Because you could wake up at home, have quarrel with your family. You could be on the road and then you face a road rage and then you are upset, emotionally upset, you will make mistake, right? So what do you want? Do you want 100%, 95%, 90%, or 80%? So I'm just going to share with you about accuracy. I came across the government way of evaluating people and their scoring system on the performance appraisal. 70% is score of 3, pass. 80% is 2, And 90%, 70 or 85%, 90% and above is 1, score of 1. So can you imagine government servant with a 10% inaccuracy, they are giving the top score for that category. But if you are running a business, can you imagine everything you do has a 10% error rate? Delivery of service, invoicing different, the way you greet customer, that within a year or 2 years, you'll be bankrupt because no customer will stay with you, right? So accuracy is something you have to define, and we define it as 99.9%. So 0.1% you can have some error, right? And how do you train accuracy? Just now I talked about how to train friendly and helpfulness. It's natural in you. Chances are you can find out within a few days, even interview time you can find out, right? Because friendliness you can't pretend. So definitely we give a person a month and you observe it. Accuracy is the same thing. The basic way to train accuracy is to make sure you give the same job. You let them do the same job, repeated. Let's say a maintenance guy, he only repair aircon. Rather than he repair aircon, repair the pump, repair another kitchen, etc. Then you can't assess whether he is accurate in his work and he can give the excuse that, look, I'm learning my job, right? So you just say, okay, once you come to work, you only repair the aircon. Chances are within 2 or 3 cycles, or you can find out whether he's an accurate worker. So the time required to find out is probably less than a month. So after accuracy, the next thing we want to concentrate on is speed of work. Because all of us are like this. Our speed of work starts high when we first do the job, and it should drop, right? And what happened in this drop is that is you know how to do the job already. So that just now the example I gave, you repair the aircon. By the 3rd time or 4th time you do it, if you have taken half an hour, chances are you can drop down to 20 minutes, right? And you can even drop down further until you reach a stable point. Like front office check-in, the first time you report for work, you checking in people, it may take you 7-8 minutes, but it will keep dropping until you reach a flat time where it is maybe 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes, you can check in the person already, right? So this is how you train. Again, you give them the same repetition and they can do the job. And finally, the last behavior we look for is timeliness, right? Is the person on time? Does the person keep to promised time? So in timeliness, the question becomes, how do you set the deadline? Yeah, and very important, you must set a fair deadline, because what you do is that you ask people basically to give you a time where they can finish the work, right? And as a boss, you have to judge, is it reasonable or not? If it is reasonable, you should just accept it and move on. And our way of scoring in our company is this: if you miss the deadline, it means that to the recipient, it's the same as you didn't do your job. So for us, the score of not meeting your deadline from a scale of 1 to 5 is not 1, but it's 0, and you get penalized for that. So that is how you get timeliness. So I'm going to tell you that if you can work fast, I mean friendly and helpful, accurate, speed of work and on time, you're already very good stuff to do your job. And the key becomes who set the standard. So the standard should be set by an organization. But if the organization have not set the standard for that job, it is up to the boss.